morning. Welcome to Adamah. I'm Jana. I'm the Adamah Farm director, and we're here in Falls Village, Connecticut at the Isabella Freedman Jewish Retreat Center. I'm really excited to get to share our farm with you a little bit. And of course, I wish that you were here in Falls Village with me to experience this chilly breeze. And because I would love to get a sense of who's out there. And usually when I give a farm tour, I get to hear your questions and know what you're curious about. So I'm going to go ahead and imagine that. And some of the things that I might share might be a little bit things that you already know if you have a solid foundation of experience with Adamah or with our type of farming, and some things might be new for you. So I'll try and address all of those types of questions. But yeah, I'm really excited that we have an opportunity and a way of sharing this moment with you. This is a particularly different moment for us on the farm. And today I'm going to show you, we'll get to meet our chickens, we'll get to see our compost operation, our compost piles and how we do that. We'll get to peek into our greenhouses and see what we're growing in there, see what different vegetables we're growing, check out our perennial plants, which are the plantings that are in the ground throughout the winter, coming year to year. And behind me, in this particular scene, you can see lots of the things that we'll continue to see on the farm. You can see some of our regenerative growing practices. Regenerative is really a word, what you could call it. We are a certified organic farm or a sustainable farm. Those words are all true and apt. And the word regenerative is one that folks are using even more lately that really fits with our farm. The idea being that, there's a closed loop on the farm, that there's really, what you put into the farm is coming back and helping to foster growth on the farm. So it's really a climate smart approach, and we'll talk more about all of those techniques. But also in this particular scene behind me is the very most important thing about Adamah, about our farm, and that's our Jewish farmers. We run a 3-month fellowship program every summer and every fall, and folks come here, some with zero farming experience and some with lots of farming experience, and we build community. People experience living Jewishly on the land, and the 3 farmers that you can see behind me all did the fellowship program, and now they're back here as apprentices. So for 2020, we're still kind of figuring out exactly how we'll continue to do our fellowship program, but we're so grateful to have apprentices on the farm growing food for now. So to introduce you, right here, this is Dina Bloom, who did Adamah last summer and is now fixing some drip tape, which is our irrigation system, on these broccoli plants. And in the back there, that's Dahlia Herzog. It's her 2nd year as an apprentice here, and she did Adamah 2 summers ago. And Noah Wolf-Prusan also did Adamah 3 falls ago and is a returning apprentice here. So we're so grateful to have these 3 folks and have these beautiful growing brassicas behind us. And we'll give you a quick, before we move on and show you the chickens, I'm just going to show you a couple of the different plants so you can get familiar with what they look like here in the field. If you've ever wondered what a broccoli plant that's been in the ground for about a month looks like, here you go. That's broccoli. And this is kale. Red cabbage. Cauliflower. Bok choy. Beets. And dill. These heritage breed birds are bred to be resilient. So a lot of industrial chickens live their whole lives in little boxes, and for them, their genetics are such that they can survive those kinds of conditions and then output maximum eggs. And these folks are a little more wily different part of the cycle, and we're gonna learn about compost. So meet me in our compost yard. Welcome to the compost yard. So this beautiful stuff is all of the food scraps, the eggshells and the kale stems from the Isabella Freedman dining hall that's now been broken down into beautiful fertilizer for our plants. Our principle here on the farm is really about feeding the soil, and so the more alive your soil is, the more broken down microbes you have, which is what's in my hand right now, the more your crops will thrive. And this is a finished pile. You can see our cycle complete. You might notice a couple other things in this pile. You might also have noticed over in the field when we were looking at our broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage plants, our young plants, you might also have noticed a few other things in there. For example, a little bit of cup, perhaps a spoon handle. These are actually compostable items that take longer to break down than some of the other ingredients in our compost. So we do end up with them and they do break down eventually, but it's a signature bit of Adamah is to have a little bit of, extra sprinkling on the soil. So this is the finished project. This is after about a year of breaking down, of turning the pile, watering the pile with all our beautiful northeast rains. And let's go check out where it started. So our feed me pile is where we put our fresh compost. So our onion tops and our kale stems and our, looks like I see the orange peel over there. Again, over time, from stirring and adding carbon, adding leaves from the neighborhood, we end up with our finished product. You might notice that our feed me pile is, it's a little slim right now. And with our retreat center on pause during COVID-19, we have less food waste going into the piles. And for that reason, actually, we moved our chickens to where you saw them in the pasture, so they have places to search for bugs and seeds and such. Usually they would be on the piles and they would actually be looking for a compost for some of what we didn't enjoy. They might take up afterwards. So for now, this is our new moment, and yeah, we're just so grateful to keep our food waste in the cycle and to have such beautiful, rich fertilizer that grows such beautiful vegetable plants. Let's go see some more of those. Welcome to the Chai Tunnel. The Chai Tunnel is a high tunnel in most parlance, and we have changed the name to Chai because this place is just so full of life, Chai meaning life, and it's amazing the difference that one layer of plastic makes on temperature. So I'm schwitzing in here. It's a lot warmer than it is outside. And that allows us to grow crops earlier and later in the season. So it really extends our season. What you see in front of you is a few different kinds of crops. These are carrots. We've got some arugula and turnips. We've got spinach. We've got beets. And let me tell you a little bit about our planting scheme in here because it's kind of fun. All these hanging strings that you see are going to be trellises for tomato plants that we're actually going to put in the ground tomorrow. And we've done this what's called interplanting, where we have the carrots on the edges of the bed because it's still been too cold to plant tomatoes for a while in this unheated house, but not too cold for carrots. And so we planted the carrots in such a way that they'll come out of the ground by the time the tomatoes need the whole bed. So it's a good way of using the space as much as we can. So you can picture this in July, just a house, literally just walls of tomatoes on either side of me. And every year, normally in the summer, we have Adamah Fellows in here. You can imagine the singing, the sharing of people's sort of experiences, really filling up this whole house as at the same time that it's just like pouring forth tomatoes. And so, yeah, this is a really special part of the farm where we can really experience a longer season and kind of stretch some of those plants longer. Another advantage of growing with plastic, and if you are gardening at home and you want to try building just a little what's called a cold frame, or giving some protection to your plants, that'll help you start things earlier and go longer. And then the other advantage we see in here is for a crop like tomatoes that really struggle in our northeast New England weather to fight off foliage diseases like funguses. In here, they get a lot less of that disease because their leaves are kept dry. So that's another advantage that we see here in the high tunnel. I'm going to show you a little bit more of our planting techniques straight across the way in another field. So this field is getting ready to be planted. Again, it's May, so this is really big planting season on the farm. And we have a nice pile of finished compost, some of the same stuff that I showed you up in the compost yard that we brought over here. And this area, we call this technique no-till, meaning that we're not going to disturb the soil. As much as possible, we're going to leave the soil where it is. And this is a big piece of that word regenerative that I talked about earlier, is trying where we can, and sometimes we do till, but trying where we can to avoid it so we can actually sequester carbon, so we can keep the carbon in the soil and actually put more carbon in the soil. So this is a big piece of what we're looking for in global agriculture, is new techniques, new ways of getting that carbon to stay in the soil. And one piece of that is this method of no-till farming. And you can see we have on this part still a tarp down that's actually smothering the weeds that were there before. And then we lifted a tarp off of this patch that had broccoli and cabbage in it last season, and now we're going to be planting cucumbers in this area. And you may have had an opportunity to try our famous Adamah dill pickles. We make lacto-fermented dill pickles. It's a technique. If you're stuck at home and looking for a new culinary tradition to check out, you can definitely try lacto-fermenting cabbage, anything you've got. Salt, you look up a good ratio, and you're going to end up with a really delicious way of preserving vegetables that also feeds all your good gut bacteria. So that's what's going to be growing here, is our pickling cucumbers. So let me show you, let's move on to another patch where you can see another one of our value-added products in the making, and that's going to be some of our berries. These are red currant bushes. So we make currant jam, we make blueberry jam, we make raspberry jam, and they're a perennial. So that means that they planted them a few years ago, and then every year we mulch them with wood chips and give them compost, and they keep coming back each year. And on my right is another wonderful perennial. These are hazelnuts, and more we've been getting excited about our ability to grow protein on the farm. Of course, we have our chickens, we have eggs for the community, we have goat milk, and these are a plant-based protein that we're able to grow here in our region really successfully. And they're really tasty. So that's a piece of what we're checking out. One of the things at Adamah that makes that makes our farm what it is and makes me so grateful to be here and experience the plants with so many people is that we really take as many moments as we can to pause and to notice. So while we're moving quickly and we're composting and we're making beds and we're planting and we're doing all of those things, we also take those moments to stop and notice really, the idea that this land that we have, that we're on, is good, is home, and is a place that can provide for us. And so I want to give you just one of those moments. You can see from the distance that you're at right now that this is a beautiful plant. And if we just take an extra moment, which you'll have is what a current bud looks like, and you can actually see on that bud, you can see some of the flowers opening up, and this potential has been in the plant throughout the winter while the ground is frozen and the plant is still, and yet every spring reliably these beautiful, incredible little buds come out and turn into flowers and eventually turn into juicy fruits each year. So next we're going to go and visit some of our partners that help make it possible for these flowers to turn into fruit. Well, some things stay the same in spring of 2020 as most of the time, and that is that I always social distance with the bees. So here I am standing a little ways from their hive, and this community is buzzing around looking for pollen, and this particular moment on the farm, we like to try to provide as much habitat or as much as many food sources as we can for these bees so that they can help us out all year long and produce lots of yummy honey. Here the bees are, and they're coming back to their hive with their wonderful harvest of nectar, and hopefully by Rosh Hashanah we'll have a little bit of a harvest of honey from the hive. They make more than they necessarily need, and we're able to take a little bit of that and sweeten our new year with it. Bees aren't the only pollinators around. We've got a whole range of other insects that not only do they help our farm by pollinating the crops, but they also tend to be predators of our pest insects. So we don't spray anything on the farm, and what we're able to do is really rely on these partnerships with other species to come and, eat the pests that bother our crops. And one really significant way that we do that is we provide habitat for them. So the habitat for our honeybees, of course, is their bee box, but this area behind me is habitat and what we call a nectary, a food source for those other pollinators. Now, right now it looks like just, plants from last year, but by summer we'll have a bustling area here full of insects because we have lots and lots of flowering plants that those pollinators enjoy and appreciate. What does that have to do with this sign, Shabbat? 7 is for rest and release. Our tradition teaches that every 7 years we should allow the land to rest, to have a shmita, to have a year in which we don't try to extract from the land, but rather that we, I hope you can hear me with this wind, but I'll just try to talk a little louder, but rather that we take a break from cultivating the soil. And that's on a 7-year cycle, just like our week is on a 7-day cycle. And if you've ever experienced life on the farm, there's always more to do. And it's a beautiful thing that we get on our 7th day at Adamah. We have this experience of getting to notice, getting to pause, getting to experience the farm in a way that really isn't about deriving benefit, but really is about being with the farm. And in that same way, we really view this patch in that same way. We have at least 1/7 of our land always in some kind of a fallow or a cover crop, some way that the land is not being manipulated by us in order to pull out a crop, but rather we take that wisdom from our tradition to remind us that there's actually, the benefit comes back many-fold when we acknowledge this kind of need for release, for rest, for regeneration, for leaving space beyond what we think we need to change and we need to do on the land. Last fall, our Adamah Fellows finished harvesting all of the winter squash, the pumpkins that were in this field, And when they didn't just walk away. Instead, they planted, and they planted not with an eye for a harvest this spring, although there are other areas of the farm where we did that. But here they planted for rejuvenating the soil. So this is called cover crop, and we have 3 species mixed together here. We have rye, which is this tall grass. We have vetch, which is a legume, and also this clover is a legume. And those legumes actually do something called fixing nitrogen. They put fertilizer back into the ground. They're able to take nitrogen, which is an essential plant nutrient and very limited in agricultural soils, and they take it out of the atmosphere and they put it in the soil, and it's there for the next crop. So this is another piece of our inspiration from the concept of Shemitah, from the idea that we take 1/7 of our land and we really we focus on what it needs, and that in the end helps us end up where we want to be with sustaining our community and keeping the land healthy. This one soil sign is something that we painted to remind us of our rallying cry, one soil, and to remind us that we truly are all interconnected, and that our sustenance, the thing that feeds our body that we're so grateful for, is really comes from the ground, comes from Adamah, and and that it's an interconnected moment, even when we're each apart. And I'm showing you this farm via video,